An average agency out there can do one auto and home quote for one account. It's going to take anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on if they're answering the phone or not, right? It can take a long time, especially for an account for 5 carriers. We can quote that same account with 5 carriers in anywhere between 7 to 12 minutes.
Welcome to the Insurance Leaders Lab podcast, where we decode leadership and operations in insurance organizations and offer practical strategies for simpler actions, better results, and a more fulfilling life. If you're an insurance professional looking to succeed as a leader, you've come to the right place. Our host, Nina Shepard, has been an insurance leader for over 3 decades and is also a professional executive coach for senior leaders in transition. Our guests are remarkable individuals from various insurance industry sectors and related fields. Together, we cut through the noise to discuss what works, what doesn't, and what's ahead, helping you to build up your leadership skills and achieve better results. New episodes are released bi-weekly on Thursdays. Subscribe now to get your thinking juices flowing, one episode at a time. Bold leaders, frank dialogue, actionable strategies. Welcome to the Insurance Leaders Lab. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to welcome Jason Cass to the Insurance Leaders Lab podcast. Jason is the Amazon best-selling author of Customer Service is Just a Foreplay. His second book, Future Ready, The Strategic Case for Structure, Routing, and Scale, was released just a month ago on March 2nd. Jason is the founder of a commercial lines training platform, CEO of Agents Intelligence, home to IndyTech, BrainShare, and the Insurance Podcast Network, and CEO of Virtual Intelligence, a global staffing company. Across all his entities, Jason leads a team of 150 plus employees with a combined annual revenue exceeding $10 million. He is a proud husband, dad to two great sons, and dog dad to 2 pups who run the house. Whether it's tech, tacos, or teamwork, Jason brings bold ideas and a human touch to every stage. Good morning, Jason. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Good morning, Nina. As you mentioned, I have my own podcast, so this is one of my most favorite things to do, and I love when the roles switch and I get interviewed. So thank you, Nina.
Awesome. It's a pleasure to have you today. I want to start by sharing how disappointed I was when I found out that I missed IndyTech this year. It was 40 minutes from where I live. I found about it in February and I was like, damn, this is something amazing. And since then, I was following your podcast and also read your AI 2030 manual for modern agencies in just one sitting. I want to thank you for the fantastic work you're doing to move our industry forward. It's especially valuable that you're doing it with such a care for independent agents.
Yes.
So would you like to share how it all started for you?
You know, something I love to say, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Insurance is one of the greatest industries God's ever created. I'm known for saying that. And, I've met people that I never thought that I would meet. I've gone places that I never thought that I would go, and I've given my family the life that I never thought that I could give them. That sounds rehearsed because I've been saying it for the last 5 to 10 years, exactly that. And I mean that with all my heart. That's why I find an advocate to be part of this industry to help be one of those perpetuates it, because the feeling that it's given me, the things that I just mentioned, I want other people to be able to experience those in the future. And I mean that with all my heart. I started back in, actually, when I met my wife. We've been together now for 24 years. We've been together for 28, but married for 24. And I met my father-in-law, and he was retired from insurance. He told me, he said, son, you need to be in insurance. The first time I met him at the dinner table. And I said, I'll never be in that industry one day in my life. And here I am. I should have listened to him a lot earlier. It was around 22 or 23. I started roughly in the spring, which is when my birthday is. So really about 23 years old. I started with an agency out of Mount Vernon, Illinois, with a mentor, Mike Beard. He's still my number one mentor to this day. And then I moved to another agency, which was real close to my home in 2005. All the promises they made me, they never fulfilled one of them. Something that I hear a lot of agents and counter. In 2010, I started my own agency out of the basement of my home with 2 kids, 2 car payments, a house payment. It was tough, but that would have been my third from scratch on a non-compete. So I've realized that I knew how to do this. In 2015, me and Travis, my business partner, got together, turned the business from JDC Insurance Group actually to the Insurance Alliance. Met a guy by the name of David Carruthers back in June of 2019. He showed me his commercial program of how to, it's called Killing Commercial, changed my life and changed the way that I train my agency, my producers today. 70% of our revenue is commercial insurance, but around 70% of our policies in force are personal lines. So we write large accounts to go after specifically nonprofits that have work comp issue. Parallel to that, in 2005, joined the Young Agents of Illinois. I led that group. We won Young Agent of the Year 3 years in a row. That's a big deal in the young agent world of the Big I throughout the United States. And then I became a young agent chairman for the National Big I, one of 4, and from 2010 to 2012. That's when I started my podcast. I was going around the industry, Nina, and this is an interesting conversation, an interesting story, because what happened was is they were sending me around. I was selling insurance on Facebook because I was out of the basement of my home just trying to do what I could. I was on a non-compete, and they said, "Hey, Jason," the big guy said, "we're going to fly you around the country, and I want you to explain this to other agents." So it was in around 2012. I'm in Oregon, and a young guy comes up to me and he starts giving me these great ideas. And I said to him, "Why are you telling me this?" And he said something that meant a lot, Nina. He said, "Because you have the microphone." And I thought to myself, wow, if I could do this thing called podcasting, which a lot of people have a podcast today, not as many did back in 2013. So I started Agents Influence podcast, and I would invite agents on. And so today, to this story of that is that I give a voice to those who have no voice. That is what I try to do. And continue it on. I've done over 1,000 podcasts. As you said, I created my own commercial program, sold that off to another tech company, and started BrainShare in 2014. That was part of my private mastermind where people pay $99 a month. I do 2 meetings a month for them, and we engage. It's a really great thing. And then we decided to meet once a year face to face. That's what BrainShare came about. It's 150 people sitting inside of a room, invite only. We sit in that room for 2 days. And upon doing that in 2022, I realized that no one had created a tech conference. We have Applied, which has AppliedNet. It's really great. Vertifor, Accelerate, Hawksoft has their own thing. But there was nothing that what I like to call Switzerland, the neutral. It doesn't matter what system you use. Let's come together. And a lot of those systems, not to hammer them, just to be real, they exclude some tech from them because they might be in competition. I would vowed that that would not happen. And so we created that in 2023, had it in 2024, just had it in 2026. So we went from 120 people to 280 to 435. And we are going to be at the Hilton West Palm Beach. So it's going to be close to you again. And we'll have that February 1st through the 3rd. We have got some great speakers. I don't know if most of your listeners may know of Chris Voss, who wrote the book Never Split the Difference. He is going to be there doing some keynotes, and we've got all kinds of stuff going on. So BrainShare is on the 1st, Indie Tech is on the 2nd and 3rd. I know that was probably long-winded, but that gives you everything of what I've been doing on 2 parallel paths.
That's amazing story of a really true career in insurance industry. Wow, I'm really impressed. Before we go further, 2nd and 3rd February of 2027. Please, everyone, mark your calendars right now. That's important. I'm doing that.
Registration opens May 5th. This is important. May 5th. It's $99 for the first 24 hours to sign up. $99. And then the regular price starts at $299. So you get in. It's something I've just always done from the get-go, and it's worked really well.
That's great. Wow. I'm looking forward to it already. Jason, great career in insurance. And then you are pivoting into sharing your knowledge and working not just for the insurance agency yourself, but for the industry. And
That's right.
that's amazing. How
That's
did
right.
it feel for you? What was driving you to do that?
Just as I said earlier, I want other people in the future, anybody who buys my agency or buys another agency, to have the same feeling. I mean, I was 20, 21 years old. I had a 2-year old that I didn't have any presents under the tree. I was trying to figure out what to do in life, and it was stressful. And I remember I was selling windows, and I become the number one salesperson in the first 4 months out of St. Louis. And I remember coming home with this big bonus check to my girlfriend, now wife, and I said to her, "I think I found something I'm really good at." And that was like a huge weight lifted off. And I think there's a lot of us that can remember back when we were younger, the old saying, "You were born twice." The day you were really born, and the second time is when you really realize why you were supposed to be on this earth. But then I had a third time when I started listening to my father in law and decided to join the insurance industry. One of the things that's helped me do what I do is I believe I heard Steve Jobs say one time, he said, "I don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. I hire smart people and have them tell me what to do." And I realized that to be successful and do the things that I felt as if I had a calling to do, I had to learn that. And in the time, I'm this is where I brag a little bit. I feel as if I'm a very, very good delegator. And now I've realized I'm a very good orchestrator because that's getting everyone you delegate to work together in harmony. You put said out of over 150 employees, we actually have over 200 now. Uh, I did start another company called Virtual Intelligence. Own a company in Colombia and one in the Philippines. We have virtual employees that we put in agencies because I realized what the number one problem is with every agency that's frustrated and is not growing, and we can talk more about that later. But delegation is where I really realized that I had a special ability to be able to lead people. I have a very special ability to be able to work with people and say, "This is what you're good at," and putting them in those positions. I have every one of my employees has told me every time, "Jason, I had no idea I was good at this until I started working for you. And it's amazing how you saw this in me." And so after a while, I started realizing, like, "Hey, wow, I might be good at this." And so that's allowed me to spread my wings and help this great industry.
That is such a valuable idea for all young leaders starting in insurance. Going back to what you said, the Steve Jobs quote about work with smart people. Don't be the smartest in the room 100%.
Now, Nina, do you know why people don't do that? Because smart people cost money. And there's a thought in this business. Do not get me wrong. Whenever I had to do my first few cup, I thought to myself, where am I going to get the money to pay this person? Right. But I knew that I had to bear down, make that sacrifice. And then after you do it once or twice, now you start making money because they're so smart that they start helping lead, and it allows you to start really working on the business or working on other businesses. And then it starts to cascade and come down. But that's the key that I want agency owners or any insurance professional to listen to. Smart people cost money. So quit trying to buy the Audi Q7 when you're younger and spend that money on actually doing or finding people who are going to make you better. And then you can buy 6 Audi Q7s if you want to later in life.
I would add to that, smart people are not born smart. They are growing and learning into being smart. And that's also our opportunity. I truly believe that the
Very
leadership perspective, we are here to help other people to become smarter. And
That's
that's
right.
where smart delegation comes into play here as well.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's very right.
awesome. So, Jason, you must be a very busy person. You've just mentioned all these things. And I know how it could feel sometimes to succeed in our business. You really have to come up with your professional strategies to figure out how do you organize your 24 hours. because there are still only 24 hours. So,
Nina, I know this is crazy. I'm not overworked. I'm really not. I'll be in Dallas, Texas from the 8th to the 11th. I'll be in Columbia from the 12th to the 16th. I have vacation with my family from the 24th to the 5th. I come into the office every day at 8 o'clock. I meet with my executive assistant. I have meetings from 9 until 2. I do not have any meetings after 2. Every once in a while, if it's one of my what I like to call my lieutenants, the people I delegate to, they may need me, but I do not take it. And I take an hour lunch right now. Every once in a while, I like to do projects. My dad is a professional floor setter of tile and hardwood floor. Right now, I'm laying the hardwood floor in my house. I'm leaving every day at 3 o'clock and doing that till 7 or 8 because I just truly love to do that. I don't do that all the time, but my wife said she wanted a new one. I said, honey, it's been 2 or 3 years since I've done a home project. I'd like to do it. I really don't work as much as everybody thinks. I don't work on Saturdays. I don't work on Sundays. I'm a reader, read probably anywhere between 20 to 30 books a year. And when I say reader, I used to be a reader. Now I'm a listener because I listen to my Audible. I work out every morning for 45 minutes. I'm an early riser. I will say that. I get started at around 5 in the morning, sometimes 4:45.
okay.
And the secret to that is preparing the night before for waking up early. That's one of the secrets there. I'm going to tell you, I haven't worked 40 hours in a long, long time in a week because I delegate to those people that I trust and I get the heck out of their way and let them do what they need to do. And every one of my lieutenants, so I have 5 people that if you give me these 5 people, I can rule the world. One of them, my most important, is my wife. I also have my director of operations, Susel, who works at Virtual Intelligence. I have Sophia, who runs my 3 location agency. I have Barbara, who's my executive assistant, and I have Sarah who's my graphics designer. Now, here's the crazy thing, Nina. My wife is 46, Susel is 29, Sophia is 26, Barbara is 27 and Sarah is 28. Every one of them. And so I found what they're good at. I put them in their position and I train them hard. And I meet with each of them 2 times a week for 30 minutes each. And we go over the things that need to be done. And that's just the way that we do it.
Oh, you didn't train your wife.
No, I didn't train my wife. She trained
She
me.
trained you probably, right?
That's right. That's right. But if you give me those 5 people, I could run any business and do anything there. They have superpowers. And if you notice, they're all women. I was raised by a single woman most of my younger life. I was always better with women teachers. I always made better grades. I don't know what it was. It's just something I pointed out. And one day, about a year ago, and I was like, wow, all the people who run my agencies or are major in my life are women. That's just, it's really, really, really wild. So I'm kind of proud of that.
Well, it's very interesting that you say that, and it's great that you noticed that because that is actually the statistics.
Oh, wow.
75%, I believe that's the right figure. About 75% of staff in the insurance agencies are women. It's not looking as good when we are talking about the ownership percentages.
Correct.
It's probably, 75 to 25. And that makes total sense when you're thinking about servicing and,
Emotional intelligence,
and
communication, multitasking. That's right. And Nina, I want to sit here for a second. This is interesting. So I ask agents all the time. As a national speaker, I'll ask agents all the time. I'll say, what is the most important thing in your agency? And they'll say revenue. They'll say referrals. They'll say renewals, right? They all say that. And I say, you're wrong. The most important thing in your agency are the women that work in it. And most of the women in the audience, they're like, "Yeah, I like this guy," But a lot of the men, you can see them feel uncomfortable. And here's what I say: everything you just mentioned, revenue, renewals, is all handled by women. So if you really think about that, the most important thing in your agency is being handled by women. So that's enough to be said there.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Okay, well, back to your winning formula. You sound almost like exemplary
guy with the ideal work-life balance and everything organized perfectly. And
I thrive for
I'm
it.
now really interested to read both of your books.
Yes, yes.
So I'm sure there is a lot of wisdom from the perspective of your
Correct.
virtual intelligence, VAs, and all the automation that you're talking about. So shall we shall
Oh,
we talk
now
a
now
little
you're
bit
gonna hit
about
it
that?
on. Yeah, so let's talk about the first one because it's kind of short to the point. So no one was talking about experience in 2013. I wrote the book in 2014. Customer service is just foreplay. It's the modern customer experience that will separate you. I realized that through the growth of Amazon and all these great companies out there, that customer service was just something that was expected.
Mhm.
But when you ask agents what separates you from your competition, they would say customer service. And so it kind of got to the point, and you got to keep in mind, I'm in my third, fourth year of owning my own agency. I'm realizing that I've got to do something different to stick out. I realized that if I could create a customer experience, that means having a good website. Believe it or not, at our very first brain share, we
Yeah.
had an argument on whether or not you needed to have a website or not. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but that's what it was. We had an argument on whether or not you needed to have a mobile app or not. These are the type of things that the customer expects. Here's what really got me going. Little short story. I'm picking up the phone and a lady calls me and she asked me for an auto and home quote. And I said, okay. And I take down all her information. And as I do the quote, I'm running her reports and I'm realizing that she was with Geico for 4 years. And then she left and went to an independent agent in my town at the time. And when I got her back on the phone, I had talked to her, going over her quotes, and I said to her, hey, I noticed you were with Geico for 4 years. And I said, and then you've only been with this current agency now for a year. And I'm curious. Here's what she said, Dina. Changed my life. She said, independents don't have as much value as Geico.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, first thought was, how dare this lady? Right? How dare she? And then I thought, okay, wait a minute. Let me put myself in her spot and figure out why she's saying that. We didn't have online bill pay. We didn't have a mobile app. She worked 3 to 11 swing shift. Our kids come home and they're coming home. She's going to work. She was a single mother. She had no way to get a hold of her agent because she's working and sleeping in the middle of the day. She reaches out to her agent at 6, 7 o'clock at night to make a change, can't get a hold of him. She said, this is just crazy. I got all this value. Warm handshakes and wood paneling walls do not equal customer service. And that's what the independents at the agent decided at that time. So what I did is I broke down every stage of the process from the beginning of when they first call you to when at the very end when they're buying multiple products from you. And I broke each one of them into 6 sections. So we had 6 sections that made up the customer experience as they go through your office. And I put the tools you would use. Believe it or not, e-sign was being excluded by most companies at that time. You couldn't e-sign. That was one of the tools that I put in there. Being on video with your customers was one of the tools I put on there. So I laid tools out. So what it did is it gave a visual to agents to say, okay, in this stage of the process, I should be using these tools. And that helped them create the customer experience. That is customer service is just foreplay. Now, if you went to go read that book today, I still have people buying it. It's a little old school. It's kind of a little nostalgia because I'm going back and talking about the importance of a website. And really, the way you should build a website today is not the way you should do it back then. But that was a very big thing for me. And I realized that I could do that. That was very, very important to me. But future ready is my baby. Nina, this will be my legacy. And I know this for a fact because I told my wife when I was writing it. I went a little manic when I wrote this thing. I mean, I was up until 10, 11 o'clock at night writing it. I'd wake up at 3 or 4, start writing again because I knew I was on to something. After dealing with virtual intelligence in all of my agencies, I realized that there was agencies that are 1 million, 2 million, 6 million in revenue and they would have a ton of VEs, virtual employees. We call them virtual employees. The world calls them virtual assistants. My virtual employee, Marvin, who works for my agency, he controls my $6.5 million premium book of business. That's not an assistant. That's an employee. So we call them VEs, virtual employees. And I realized that the agencies that had these virtual employees, and the more they had, the more productive they were, the more efficient they were, and they were liking the business a lot more. Then I would have the same $1, $2, $3, $6 million agencies who had no VEs, or they would call me and say, "Hey, I don't think this VE is serving a purpose," and they weren't growing. They were miserable. The people were walking out the back door at the end of the day, pulling their hair out, saying, "Did I get anything accomplished?" And if you're an agent listening or agency owner, you know that feeling. And I'm going to tell you, there's one thing. It's not marketing. It's not sales. It's none of that that makes that happen. What makes that happen is routing the right work to the right people. 70% of the things we do every day, quoting, COIs, billing, endorsements, and on, those are 70% of the things that every agency is doing in their agency every day. Not just my agency, everybody who's listening, those are the things you're doing. And they do not require a license. So what we do as agency owners is we say to our staff, I want you to build on sales. I want you to have better conversations with our people. I want you to increase our retention. I want you to increase cross sales. And at the beginning of the day, the phone rings, they need an ID card, they need a quote. So that is the reason why their staff walks out the back door and feels like they're pulling their hair out and they're cooking dinner and going, "Man, did I get anything done today?" Why? Because the expectations that have been put on them by the agency owner is what they consider success. And the expectations that the agency owner puts on them is what the agency owner considers success. And this is why they can't get things out of their people. This is why their people are stressed out, because they're not routing the work to the right people. Those agencies that were successful and productive and happy, like I was talking about, they had taken initiative to look at the tasks and say, what can be done that's not licensed? And this is what people think. Well, you're trying to eliminate licensed people. No, I'm not. You start with the licensed person and you go to everything that they don't need to be doing and take it off of them. So you elevate that licensed person to do those things as an agency owner. And so I really was captivated, and I realized that with the new invention of ChatGPT and what was coming along, there was only two different types of actual people that do business inside of an agency: a licensed person and unlicensed. And then I realized there's a third, the future workforce of the insurance industry, which is agentic bots. And those are the ones now. So you have actually two different types of agentic bots. You have those that are autonomous. They can do it like a mortgagee change. They can just do it by themselves and it doesn't even need to be checked. Or you will have a VE managed bot. So we now have four different types working in the agency. So now we can even start routing things away from our unlicensed people to things so we can elevate our licensed people. And I beat my head against the wall. And I said to myself, how am I going to make this happen? And that's when I wrote the manual. And the manual is more of the how. The book, Future Ready, is the why you're doing this. In the first three chapters, I talk about new leadership. You have to be a different kind of leader to be able to lead in the future. This is what Future Ready is about. I come up with 14 different categories of data that's not used today. You've read the manual, and you'll see that, like, Reagan's Best Practices is a fantastic organization. But here's the deal. They show us what agents number one were doing 2 to 3 years ago in analyzing that today. And they also show you what the end result is. They don't show you how efficient you are in coming up with those results. So I figured if I wrote a manual called AI 2030, I would show people what an agency is going to look like in the year 2030. And then I built Future Ready book to bring you there, show you step by step, show you all of those data points, where we're going to be. I mean, a lot of those data that I created, you can't even do right now because agentic is not prevalent inside. Now with the invention of Claude Code and Claude Coworker and stuff, you're starting to be able to measure those things based on the metrics that I had created inside that manual. And that manual, by the way, I don't say this to make money because it's free. I give it away for free at agencyintelligencemanual.com. It's free. I'm not making any money off of it. The book that I wrote cost me $13.87 to produce. I sell it for $14 because that's what Amazon charges me, the $13.87 or whatever. I'm not here to make money. Remember going back to what I said at the beginning? I'm here so that agents can find the success, meet the people, go to the places, and give their family the life that they've never had. And it starts by routing work correctly.
I want to say that I've been in insurance for 35 years and I really love the framework. Well, I didn't read the book, but in the manual, there is a very clear framework. Those 14 metrics,
Metrics.
I think that's a little bit of too much, but it gives a great picture. Well, I am a minimalist. I would like to see that person who actually has a clarity over all of those metrics. God bless them. But to understand them from the perspective of, okay, here are the things I need to look for, and here are the things for me to think about and search into how I can optimize those things so that I get to the higher point rather than stay in the lower point. That's invaluable. I started my agency 1997. We had one computer and one internet access. You had to sit in front of the computer and then log into that internet, and it was doing like, oh, you remember that sound? And then
Yeah.
your email, right?
Yeah.
So I did walk a long way, let me put it this way.
Makes
But with
sense.
that said, if someone would give me a framework similar to what you are giving to the starting agents today, I would probably be so much better off from the very start because it's just a wonderful framework. So I definitely encourage everyone who is starting to look into that because that's the forward thinking. That's exactly as you put it. It's 2030. This is where you
Agency.
want to be. And the moment is to start now, because otherwise you are going to be in a different place in 2030. Jason, I do want to ask you a little bit more about this routing idea,
Okay.
because what you're basically suggesting in your manual is everything that comes in needs to be then distributed and routed to the one of those 22 buckets, which everyone is doing.
Right.
Here are claims, here is endorsements, here is new requests, and all of that. Who is doing that routing? From a practical perspective, here I am in, let's say, 1 million agency. How do I do that?
The next routing engine. So right now I am open for investment and raising $500,000. I put $120,000 in my own money in this. So it's the next routing engine. And so here's what it looks like. Phone rings, the CSR, whoever picks up the phone, and they say, I need to make an auto change. They start talking immediately because the system is able to listen to the phone call. It pops open auto change form. You just simply start asking the questions without typing. So, hey, so what's your name? What's your year? What's your make? What's your model? What's the VIN? What's the lien holder? And as you're asking that information, it's taking it right off of the call and pre-filling the form. And then when they get to the bottom, you hit submit. This is the beauty of it. It's logically routed using AI. We route it to the right person. When you're using the logic routing engine, which is in 2 agencies, mine and one other right now, it's beta testing, but it'll be out by somewhere in the summer for sale. We have a direct integration with Momentum, which is a 4th largest AMS company, but we're also going to be able to integrate with any of the management systems out there. It's logically routed. That means that a lot of ID cards that come in, a lot of billing inquiries that come in, a lot of quote requests that come in, the licensed people aren't going to know about them because they're going to be routed to the right person. So you're literally going to have your licensed people in the first couple of weeks to a month going, wow, I've got a lot of time on my hands. Well, now you can start putting together systems to say, hey, remember that new business? Remember that retention? Remember those cross sells? Remember those elevated conversations? Inside the manual and inside the book, I talk about elevated conversations. We're going to have to train our people on having elevated conversations because usually they're just having reactive conversations, which is, oh, you need an ID card. Okay, here's the information I need. Let me send it to you. rather than actually talking about, hey, AI has brought me all these data points and I want to talk to you about so we can make sure that we're covering you correctly or we can make sure that you have the policy, the insurance you need, actually taking a couple seconds to talk to them. That's the thing, is that in the future, relationships are the number one thing of an agency. Now, see, we don't think that. We think, hey, these bots are going to take over. We're going to lose communication. No, we're going to actually start having communication that our customers are expecting. It almost goes back to the customer experience, right? We're actually talking to the people. We're going to have more communication because we're going to offload those things that we don't need to be doing as a licensed person. That is how it would work. It's called Next One is the product. For all your listeners, it's called Next One. But there's three parts of it: the Next routing engine, the Next OS, and the Next intelligence. So once you route it, any of the work that needs to be done by the bots, the next goes and logs into the portal and does the change and then gets to the end and flags a licensed person to say, hey, review this. Right. So now they come in, they review it, they look at the notes, the transcription of the call, they hit boom, yes, confirm, endorse. And then boom, the VE then comes in and completes it out, sends the ID card, makes sure that the billing's set up, follows up in 15 days to make sure that their bill was correct, maybe ask for a Google review, whatever that could be. So think of that. In that whole process that could take 15, 20 to 30 minutes, the licensed person was involved for 5 to maybe 10 minutes just on the part they needed to do to make sure everything was correct, what they're licensed and trained to do. But everything else was done either by a bot or a virtual employee. And it's very, very hard for agencies to do without it being logically routed. So once you hit submit after you take the information, it's taken from you. And then we have what's called Next Intelligence that watches the whole thing and is like, hey, wait a minute, the bot made a mistake here. Or why did it get routed to her? Because when we routed it to her, she just sent it over to so and so. Right. I always like to say this: the generation of just forward it to me has to end, because that's what we do. I don't know how to do this. Just forward it to me. This isn't for me. I'll just forward it to them, right? That's how we live in our agencies, and it's frustrating, and we can't keep track of that, and we drop the balls, and we're not efficient. This eliminates all of that, all of that. And so that's why I got a little manic. And I knew that I was onto something. And that's why when I started this, I said it'll be legacy work because it will go on much, much further. But I believe wholeheartedly that people will look back to Future Ready and the AI 2030 manual and be like, wow, this stuff is where it all started right here. And no one wanted to write about it. The reason is because agents don't know how to delegate. They don't know how to orchestrate. They don't have enough time to do the things. I'm not the only agent that's thinking this. It's just I have enough time that I was able to put it together and actually make it real. That's kind of how it works. That might be blurry, but if any of you guys take this transcription of this podcast and put it in Claude or chat and say, hey, explain that to me, it'll line it right out for you.
It sounds great. Again, I'm a very practical person.
That's okay.
From a practical perspective. If the call is coming in, if the email request is coming in, I can see all that. Now, what is happening with the producers? We're talking about commercial, for example. There are still producers who are going out. How are you going to herd those cats?
Correct. So that's a little bit different. Okay. You don't need so much routing, right? If you're a commercial insurance, you're going to absolutely love what I'm getting ready to tell you. So we use a thing called Track, TRAQ. That is what listens to all of our phone calls. Okay. So listens to our phone calls, listens to our team meetings and everything. All my producers, I only have 2 commercial producers, but my producers have that Track app right on their phone. They go see the client, or they can do this over Teams. Okay. Doesn't matter. They are then going to, let's say that they go see them one-on-one because we deal with large commercial. They usually want to see us face to face. So my producer is going to open up the laptop. They're going to hit record on the app, set it down, and they're going to go to a company called Wonderwrite, where we have taken, because all my producers are under the age of 30, and they don't understand Accord apps. So I took the Accord app and I turned the Accord apps into questions that stack on top of each other, 16 pages. Now, I mean, 16 pages, the GL one is like 2 pages, right? The business auto one's like 3 pages, the property one, but add it all up, there's 16 pages. So let's say somebody needs a GL auto and property quote. The agent is going to go. I had that whole thing digitalized. So when you go to Wonderwrite, you're going to open up our intake form and you're going to start asking the questions: their name, their address, get to the general liability, all their coverages they need, yada 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 yada. Then when they get done, that is now inside of Wonderwrite. Beauty of that is, number one, it syncs into our management system. But the beauty of it is this: when the agent is done and closes the laptop and hits stop on track, my virtual employees now have all that. They log into Wonderwrite because we do nonprofits. They know the supplements we need. With Wonderwrite, you press a button and it takes the information out of the Accord and puts it right into the supplemental. By the time my agent gets back to the office, they could have a submission. Not only that, my VE can take the transcript of the meeting, drop it into chat, look at everything that's been done. You could say, chat, write me a description of operations. Now we have the Accords done. We have the supplements done with the description of operations. You put it inside a SharePoint. You share the link with the producer. The producer is now ready to reach out to the underwriters and start the submission. That's real. That's what we do in our agency today. And so how that's rounded, you can see that's kind of outside of the next, but that still works that way.
Jason, you are in 2035 already. From
I
from
try
what
to
I
be.
hear, this is like a science fiction. Half of it sounds like a science fiction to me.
Using two apps, Track and Wonderwrite, and using virtual employees. And now
Awesome.
my producer's doing exactly what he's supposed to do: collect the information, create the relationship, come back to the office, and have a submission to the carrier so that you can create the relationship there. That's what their job is. And then any of the correspondent that goes back and forth. Now check this out. Like, let's say that Gavin, my commercial producer, forgot to ask a couple questions. Marvin can simply select those questions and email them directly to the insured. The insured opens it up in the email, can fill it out. It comes back, pre-fills the form, the submission's done. Any of the questions that are coming back and forth. A lot of times our VEs are usually answering those and forwarding them to the agent for the agent to review and then send off an answer. Now, there's some stuff that's kind of difficult the agent's got to do, but a lot of the information's like, oh, hey, this VIN was wrong on vehicle 3. Well, my producer doesn't need to worry about trying to get that down. The VE can reach out to the client and say, hey, we noticed that there was something transposed or something on there. So that's how we do our commercials specifically. Now, on personal lines, we use Gaia. We do the same thing there, GAYA. So phone answers, our licensed people can take the information down. They put it in a thing called Risk Advisor. They hit a button. Risk Advisor has AI that lives in the browser. This is the easiest way to explain it to you. Has AI that lives in the browser. So everything we enter as structured data into a Risk Advisor. Now the information is sent to our VE, but also the VE can go into Gaia, put in the client's email, and just go to the carrier's website, and it just pre-fills everything. So an average agency out there can do one auto and home quote for one account. It's going to take anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on if they're answering the phone or not, right? It can take a long time, especially for an account for 5 carriers. We can quote that same account with 5 carriers in anywhere between 7 to 12 minutes. Most agencies can only do on average 4.5 to 5 quotes in a day. We can do that before lunchtime by utilizing the tools that are out there. And if you'll notice, I only had my licensed person taking the information, the VEs going out there using the AI, getting everything done, running the reports, attaching it to the system, and assigning it to the licensed agent. Licensed agent picks up the phone, does the sale, assigns it back to the VE finalizes it, applications, ID cards, all those different types of things that need to be done. So you can see I'm systematically putting those licensed people to where they only need to be doing licensed stuff. That's the key.
That's fantastic. I did want to ask you about the customer experience element, and you already touched upon it. When we are automating things, how do we make sure that we are still staying in touch with our customers and Granted, we are in Florida and our target audience is a little bit more specific than general audience. They often do not appreciate the automation. For example, I hear often from insurance agents, we need to have a live person on the reception to take the calls because that's what the expectation is. There is an expectation from a customer perspective to have human interaction. You explained it. You want that human interaction.
Correct.
Um,
So we had one of those systems, and I don't care what anybody says. The systems that are out there is terrible. If you call AT&T and you get an automated person, they have like awesome technology. I mean, it is good. I mean, you're talking to a AI, and you even may know it sometimes, but it's pretty flawless. The ones that are inside the insurance industry are not. And so we tried it for 6 months. We didn't like it. We believe in somebody answering that phone, right? We do. So we went back to that. We got rid of it after we tried over and over again, and it just didn't work. Do I think in 2 to 3 years it'll be a lot better? Do I think that the type that's in Florida, will like that as well? Absolutely. I think we're going to get used to it, right? But right now, I do not think that it's very good at all. So we got rid of doing that.
It's definitely a change management conversation as well. It's not about so much about technology. We will figure out the technology, but how do we
Right.
make sure that we move our people along with the technology to
That's
that 2030 conversation and forward thinking conversation? That's
Yeah.
where the
She's right.
leaders really need to focus.
Mm-hmm. A different type of leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. Jason, that was a wonderful conversation. And I
Thank
would
you.
love to continue, but I know our listeners also have other things to do. So, as we are approaching the end of it, what would be your best advice to every senior insurance leader today?
The best thing you can do is to route the work. Now, how do you do that without the routing engine, right? You go to your people and you say, what's the work that you're doing that drives you crazy? Ask the licensed people that. They're going to tell you, I'm having to do this, I'm having to do this, and it's all unlicensed work. Say, okay, we're going to hire a virtual employee or somebody who's unlicensed, and we're going to train them, or a company like Virtual Intelligence will train them for you. And now you have the work coming off your people. You're going to start to see your productivity go up, and you're going to say, this was one of the simplest things. I cannot state it enough. It is the number one issue for all of us. After I put the manual out, I had an agent who called me. He's like, you won't believe this. We already do this. We just do it manually, right? Because they realize that's where it has to go. And here's the key. I said this earlier. You have to take the decision out of your licensed people's hands, because they don't understand. They've been working in an agency and had to do this stuff forever. I have to do this ID card. No, you don't. You don't have to do the quote. You just need to be talking to the client to collect the information and delivering the information. And people will be like, so you mean I don't have to actually go in and do the quote inside the rater and inside of the agent care? No, you don't. So you mean I don't have to like try to follow up and get there on their EFT form and get their no, you don't, right? Those are the conversations you need to have with your team, and they're going to love you. They're going to go, holy cow. Now, I'll tell you this. When I first hired my first virtual employees, I've been using virtual employees since 2014. When I hired my first one, my team came to me and they were upset. They were like, hey, what are you trying to do? Eliminate our job? I said, no. They came back to me 3 months later, and I remember Sarah said to me, Jason, if you get rid of them, I'm leaving too, because I'm not going to go back to doing that crap work, right? So that's the way that it is. So start routing your work manually, and don't worry, I'm going to be helping you by the middle of the summer do it logically.
Amazing. That's great. Now, Jason, if our listeners would like to learn more about you, where do they go?
InsuranceAgencyIntelligence.com. Everything I have there, my blog, my podcast. I also own the Insurance Podcast Network, place for agents to go to get all of the popular podcasts.
Awesome. Jason, that was an amazing, insightful conversation. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to more conversations and meetings with you in the future. Bye for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Insurance Leaders Lab podcast. If you like what you've heard, please like it and leave a review on your preferred podcast platform. If there is anyone else in your circle who can benefit from listening, please share this link with them. Remember, this is a podcast for you, and your opinion matters to me, so if there is any topic you'd like to bring up, please send me a note to nina@ninashepherd.com. I'll see you back in 2 weeks on Thursday morning. Bye for now.